Hello, my friends. So some of you may know I am not the biggest fantasy reader, but this week I'm going to be reading 3 pretty lengthy fantasy novels. If you guys don't know Janelle from Beauty and the Books, definitely go check out her channel and subscribe to her. She is my booktube bestie. I'm very excited to be doing this video collab with her. We are each reading 3 of each other's favorite books. So the 3 books that are her favorites that she chose for me to read are Serpent and Dove by Shelby Mayurin, These Violent Delights by Chloe Gong, and Kingdom of the Wicked by Carrie Maniscalco. These are all 3 pretty thick fantasy novels, and not gonna lie, I'm a little scared. Fantasy is not my main genre, but I'm also very excited to do a little bit of a taste test to see what Janelle likes in her books. Obviously, we can tell she likes fantasy. Fantasy is her favorite genre, but I think she said that all 3 of these do have like a splash of romance, so that's gonna be fun. I actually have started this one already. This is the one that I have started with first, and I'm already quite a ways through it. I'm on page 216 already, and I'm actually really enjoying this one. So this was definitely a good one to start out with. This one is an urban fantasy, meaning that it takes place in a real city in like our world. So it takes place in Sicily, Italy. This is about 2 twin sisters who are witches, and they grow up being told by their grandmother that they should fear the princes of hell and the wicked because they can come into their world and cause a lot of destruction. They're told to be careful with their powers and keep their powers a secret from the humans that they live amongst. But then one night, one of the twins is murdered. Then the other twin, Amelia, goes to seek vengeance, and so she meets one of these princes named Wrath. That is where the enemies to lovers comes in for this book. She is like teaming up with this demon to figure out and solve the murder case of her twin sister. So it's really good. Actually, it's very easy to read and a quick read, I think, and I absolutely love Wrath. He's definitely giving me Damon Salvatore vibes, and I love him. So this is very enjoyable so far. I can definitely see why Janelle loves this book, and I'm very happy to agree with at least one of them, and it was the first one that I read. I'm really excited about These Violent Delights, but I think I'm most nervous for Serpent and Dove just because I know nothing about this one. But definitely we can see a theme with all of these. So yeah, this is gonna be a really fun video collaboration with Janelle, so definitely go check out her channel, subscribe to her, she is awesome. Also go watch her vlog where she reads 3 of my favorite books. Really excited to hear her thoughts on them. I'm not gonna tell you which books I chose for her to read because you'll just have to go over and watch her video to find out. But yes, I love Janelle. She is super sweet, and I'm really happy that I met her through BookTube. She has easily become one of my BFFs. Good morning. I don't want to talk about it. My whole face is just a mess right now. I don't know what's happening. We're just going through it, okay? We're going through it. Last night, I finished Kingdom of the Wicked by Carrie Maniscalco at like 2:30 a.m. I really did enjoy it. I loved the characters in here, and I loved the world building. Just everything about this story is really fascinating to me, but I did end up giving it 3.75 out of 5 stars. It was like hanging on to 4 stars like the whole way through, but then the last like 4th, it kind of lost me, and I got a little bit confused because throughout this whole thing, our main character, Amelia, is asking all these questions, mostly to Wrath, the Prince of Hell in this. If you're confused about that, or if you just don't know yet, it's like all of the 7 circles of hell. So there's House Wrath, House Lust, House Greed, House Envy, you know, Gluttony, Sloth, all those 7 deadly sins or whatever. So throughout this whole thing, Amelia, when she's with Wrath, she's like constantly asking questions about like him and his world, the underworld, and then just trying to figure out what happened to her sister. She's very obviously curious and angry about what happened with her sister, so she's trying to figure it out, but Wrath isn't like answering hardly any of her questions. So as a reader, you're not understanding really anything, you're not getting much information about it because our main character isn't. Then at the last fourth, like it really felt like you were gonna get some answers, but you still didn't. Like I still have so many questions, which is fine. I just think that this book was definitely a major setup to the whole thing. So I'm very excited to read the sequel though, which is Kingdom of the Cursed. This book did leave on a pretty big cliffhanger, so that got me really excited. I will definitely be purchasing the second book to continue with this because I do love these characters a lot. So yeah, I ended up giving it 3.75 out of 5 stars. Still really loved it. It just felt like it was missing a couple things, and a lot of the time too it felt like things were just being handed to Amelia. She kind of got off too easy sometimes just for the plot to keep moving, you know? I don't know, I just was like a little bit meh about some of that kind of stuff. If you are into fantasy, this is a really good book, so I can definitely see why Janelle loves it, and I do love it. I think this is probably one of my more favorited fantasies, although I haven't read too many yet. I did enjoy this one a lot though. And actually I was gonna say I have read Stalking Jack the Ripper by Carrie Maniscalco. I listened to it on audio, so maybe that has something to do with what I'm about to say, but I didn't love that one very much. I think I gave that one like a 2 or a 3 star. I wasn't very invested in that one, but I do love this one a lot. I'm curious about the second book, but overall, I'm pretty impressed and I really did like it. That is the first book done for Janelle's favorite books. The next one I'm going to pick up is Serpent and Dove. As I said earlier, this is one that I'm probably most nervous for. It is longer, 516-ish pages, so it will probably take me a second to like get through that, but then hopefully I will still have time to pick up these Violent Delights, and this one's like 440 something pages. I'm having a great time reading all of this fantasy because normally that doesn't happen. Also, I feel very motivated to read all of these books because I'm doing it for this special vlog with Janelle and stuff, so I'm like, I feel like I read this really quickly. So I'm hoping that the same will be for this one. I feel very accomplished for the first week of September. That's good. It's September 5th today. You like my bookshelf? It's cute, huh? Look at those twinkly lights. Today's plans are to read as much of this as I can. I also want to go to the gym, and I was also gonna film a video today, maybe a little bit of journaling. The video I want to film today actually I think will have already been up before you're watching this, but it's like my unhaul and going to the little free libraries around my town for a vlog. So what I want to do is go through any of the books that I'm unhauling that I still kind of enjoyed or want to remember some things for. I want to write down some of the quotes that I've loved from them in my journal so that it also makes it easier for me to give away the book, so I don't have to keep the whole book. I could just look back through my notes and like the quotes that I liked, so it still feels like I have the book, but I don't actually have it physically on my shelf, you know what I mean? If you're curious about which books I'm going to be unhauling, you can watch that video. Like I said, it should be up before this vlog is up, so it will be linked down below. All right, so I've made it up to page 75 now, and I will say that this one definitely has more of a complex writing style as opposed to Kingdom of the Wicked, so it's making me feel a little bit dumb, but that's okay. I think it just now, like in the last couple of pages, started to kind of get me more interested. I don't know, I mean I've been interested this whole time. It's just more complex, so it's taking a little bit more out of me to like really understand it and like kind of figure it out, because I went into this one completely blind. I have no idea what it's about other than there's witches. Witches and a witch hunter are thrust into holy matrimony. It's just going over my head a little bit more, and from just reading Kingdom of the Wicked, with it being a little bit more novice, I think, compared to this one. Kingdom of the Wicked was definitely an easier read so far compared to this. But I do really love the main character already. Her name is Lo, right? Lo? Lou. So I really am enjoying her character. She seems like a total badass already. So that's really fun. And then the other character in here, her name is Coco, which is like a nickname for Cosette, which I think that is such a cute name, Cosette. But Coco is my aunt's nickname. So that's what I've called her my entire life. So it's just kind of cool to read a story that's got Coco on every single page, because I'm like, Coco, that's my aunt. Anyway, fun fact. My aunt's real name is Corey, but we pretty much all call her Coco. So yeah, there's that little fun fact for you. Another little fun fact actually is, oh, I left Kingdom of the Wicked over there, but I was gonna talk about how I'm kind of transitioning to not annotating my books anymore, because if I ever want to like resell them or just like get rid of them, I don't want to like have a bunch of my annotations in the books, because like I had a whole breakdown. We're getting into a story time here, I hope you guys don't mind, but I had like a whole, not really breakdown, but it was just like a weird epiphany and like kind of a mental thing that hit me. I was looking at my bookshelves and I started talking to my husband. I was like, you know what's crazy? I have all of these books now. They're either gonna be, you know, donated or they're with me till the end. Like I spent all this money on these books and now they're just in my possession. Like that's kind of a scary thought. Like I'm responsible for all of these books, but like they're my possessions. Like I have to deal with them now. Like I spent money to deal with all these books. I love them, don't get me wrong, but it's just like, it was a crazy thing that I like started to think about. It's like, oh my gosh, this is kind of a lot of books and I'm wanting more. Like what am I supposed to do with all of these? Anyway, so that's also why I'm like planning to do the unhaul video, because I do have a good chunk that I'm wanting to just get rid of and not have to worry about anymore. And I don't care about like the resale value for them. I'm just gonna donate all of them most likely. But anyway, so yeah, I had that weird thought about it and I was like getting rid of some of my annotated ones and I'm like, this is kind of weird getting rid of my annotated ones. So I am veering away from annotating my books from now on. So what I'm doing instead, or what I'm transitioning to do, is just dog-earing any page that like sticks out to me. Also, okay, so let me finish my thought, hold on. I'm dog-earing my pages so that I don't lose track of something that did stick out to me. And then with my reading journal or some kind of journal, I'm just gonna write that quote and like the thoughts that were provoked from what I just read. And it's not nothing fancy, okay, it's nothing fancy, but it's just literally gonna just be like scribbles. Oops, these are some notes that I made for my wrap-ups and reviews and stuff for the books I read last month, but it's not gonna be anything crazy. I'm literally just gonna have this blank page and just like stream of conscious write about these books, because I've always been a journal person. I love just writing down my thoughts, and being able to write down thoughts for my books too is really fun and appealing to me. That way I don't feel like the pressure to keep any of my books, and I also don't feel guilty forever like getting rid of a book that I did love. I just don't necessarily want on my shelves anymore. So all that to say, I will still have like some documentation of the books that I love by writing down the quotes as well as my thoughts from it. So I think that's like a really great idea for me. That way, you know, I don't have a mental breakdown like that again, like a crisis. And then a couple other little things about it. The tabs are pretty aesthetic for the most part, but then when I try to put the books back on my shelves and they don't go flat against the back, it kind of drives me crazy. I'm gonna probably not do the tabs anymore either, unless it's a hardback and, you know, there's like the space between the pages and the hardcover, so that it will still go on my shelves nicely. And then the other thing is too, dog earing as you're reading. This is a good part on this page, you know, quick dog ear, I'm still reading, flip the page, continue reading. It takes nothing like out of your time to stop, grab your pen, underline, highlight, put the tab in, then keep reading, you know, like it just takes so much longer that way. And it kind of, you know, it pulls me out of the groove I was just in with like reading super quickly. All that to say, that's what I'm doing now with my books and annotations slash keeping track of my thoughts. So what I quickly do is just dog ear, and then that way I can go back to the dog ears once I've put the book down for a little while so that I can then write some notes. Thought I would share that with you. Alrighty. Hello. Good morning. I have now finished Serpent and Dove. I didn't update too much throughout me reading this because I ended up having to get the audiobook and kind of just listened to it like all day yesterday. So I read from like page 200, like 220, 206 actually. I read from 206 to the end. So I read a lot yesterday, but like I said, I had to get the audiobook as well on Scribd because I was getting a little bit bored at that point. Like when I start reading a book and it just isn't intriguing me that much or making me want to continue physically reading, and I have to get the audiobook, that immediately knocks the book down to a 2-star for me because it just proves that I'm not enjoying it very much. So at that point it was about a 2-star and I was just bored with the story. The writing style wasn't engaging very much. It just had too many extra details. I feel like it was just too much unnecessary stuff in the writing, so I was confused on what was happening, like what the plot was, what I was supposed to be paying attention to. I don't know, but it did end up getting really good and I started to really enjoy the characters more at like page 300. But then even still, there were like ups and downs on like how I felt about it, where I was like really invested, super into where it was gonna go, but then it just like lulled again. So it was just up and down constantly, but I did overall enjoy it. It just wasn't my favorite. I don't think I loved it or hated it. So I did end up giving it a 3-star. So it was able to bump itself up from a 2, so that's good. Like I said, at first I just didn't care for the story or the characters, although I immediately did appreciate Lou and her character because she is a very strong main female character. So I did enjoy her, and I also did love how it was a little heavier on the romance. That's kind of like the thick of the plot because it is a witch and a witch hunter thrust into holy matrimony. So it's like an enemies to lovers, forbidden love. So I did really enjoy that, and I did feel the chemistry with the two characters. So the romance in this was really nice. I also thought the side characters were enjoyable, but the writing still just didn't have me hooked throughout the whole story. I feel like the world building and the magic system was too complicated. There were a handful of scenes that I was completely here for. Like I did really love it. You know, by the end, I was definitely rooting for Lou and Reed. So I did really enjoy it, not as much as Janelle did. I was reading reviews about it and a lot of people have said that it reads like fan fiction. And I can neither confirm nor deny that because I've never read fan fiction. So I cannot tell you if that is true or not. But it did have a different writing style, I think. This was enjoyable, it was fun, and I did like the characters. But the world building and the magic was just not fleshed out enough for me to really understand what was going on. So 3 out of 5 stars, pretty good. Lou's character development was really good, and I think she was a great main character to follow for the story. Those are my thoughts on that. Now I'm going to finally start These Violent Delights by Chloe Gong, and I'm very excited to get into that. But yes, it is the morning. I'm currently making some bacon for my breakfast. I'm gonna have like waffles and whatever else with my bacon, but it's smelling super good in here and I'm very excited to eat it. And then I will start, well actually before I can get into These Violent Delights, I do have to finish reading the portion for my family. Benji, hold on, I'm talking. I do have to finish reading the portion of The Unhoneymooners for my family book club because we're meeting tonight, so I have to finish that, but then I'm going to pick up These Violent Delights immediately after so I can get through as much of that. I have like 3 days to read that one. I also have the audiobook on hand just in case, but I'm going to start out reading it just physically. My bacon is ready, so I'm going to go eat that. All right, so it's been a couple days. It's been like 2 days since I last updated, and I've barely read anything. Unfortunately, I have not had much time for reading. I'm literally only on page 34, and I have this whole book to finish at the very latest tomorrow. I like seriously need to finish this. So the 34 pages that I have read, I've actually been really enjoying. I'm excited about this story for sure. I know I had just talked about the whole thing with the audiobook. If I have to get the audiobook, it's immediately a 2-star. But that is not the case for this one. I'm just going to start the audiobook simply to help me get through it on time, and because I have to do some things around the house like water my plants and everything. So I'm going to put the audiobook on. I am enjoying it. It's nothing to do with me not enjoying it. I just hope I can finish it. All right, so here's the thing. I was able to make it up to page 152 of These Violent Delights with listening to the audiobook today. Because I have to do the audiobook, I am getting less invested in the story, unfortunately, because I just don't love audiobooks. I'm a terrible listener, and so I'm catching bits and pieces of the story and not absorbing it all like I would be if I was reading it physically. I am following along sometimes with the audiobook too, but with everything else I've been doing around the house, just having to listen is hard for me. So I will say that I'm definitely going to want to reread this book at some point when I can kind of take my time with it and just like really get everything out of it that I can. That isn't to say that right now I have like absolutely no idea what's going on. I do understand the book and I'm really enjoying it. It's definitely very political. I'm just like kind of drained from all of the fantasy. I do think the plot is great. I enjoy the characters. The writing is awesome. It's all good. Like, this book is genuinely really good. I just need to give it more of my time and effort next time I read it. But this time I'm just trying to, you know, get the overall premise of the book and know what happens and stuff. That's my update now. But yeah, I'm on page 152. The audiobook has 9 hours and 15 minutes left. So yeah, I think I can get really close to almost finishing it today. And then if not completely finish it tonight, then I will finish it tomorrow. I'm here to wrap some things up now. I just finished reading These Violent Delights and I took a quick nap, and that was really awesome. And I think I'm going to give this 3 out of 5 stars. I did really like it. I enjoyed the story. I think Chloe Gong did an excellent job with this novel, which everyone says. This is her debut and she wrote it while she was in college studying for a double major. So it's really, really impressive the way she was able to write such a fantastic retelling of Romeo and Juliet, but then have a little bit of her own twist on it with it being set in the 1920s in Shanghai. And the writing in here was incredible. She did a fantastic job. I truly think so. The whole monster madness plot was very interesting as well. I enjoyed that. It reminded me a lot of Zootopia, with like people going savage basically because of this contagion, and it was described very gruesomely in this book. Like, the descriptions of the insects and, you know, the brutal murders and the goriness was a lot, and it was a bit much for me with the insect part of it because I don't like bugs, and so it was really gross. The writing was very well done in that sense, where it made you like itchy and bleh, you know, just like gross. That whole part of the plot did remind me of Zootopia, with them trying to figure out who created this monster, who created this madness that's going around and killing people, turning them savage. Lots of political plot points for this as well, and lots of commentary on race, you know, society. All of it is really well done. I think that's where a lot of the excess of this story comes from, so it did feel a little long to me. I feel like it could have been shorter, but I think a lot of where that excess part of the story came from was all the political commentary that it did include. So there's pros and cons to it. If you like books that have lots of, you know, political stuff, then this is a good one. But also, like, if you're just going in for the meat of a story, still good. It's just not the best one out there for that kind of thing. I really, really do like this story. I feel like every time I give a book 3 stars, it kind of makes it seem like I didn't like it, because 3 stars is such a weird rating for it to be like out of 5. I feel like 3 is just so weird, because like there's such a wide variety of 3-star ratings. Like, books that I've rated 3 stars, such a wide variety of them, you know? I don't know if anyone can relate to that, but I always feel like my 3 stars are just on a whole different level, you know what I mean? Anyway, so yeah, I did like this. Everyone that's read this in the past has really said that they were disappointed by the romance, because it's not heavy at all until like the last little bit, it starts to come into play some more, and so a lot of people were disappointed and they had different expectations for that. I went into it knowing all of that, so I didn't have expectations at all for the romance. It definitely was on the back burner for like this whole book, which doesn't make tons of sense because it's supposed to be Romeo and Juliet. I think that this story definitely would have benefited from having more of a focus on the romance, whether you go into it knowing that there's not that much romance or not, you know what I mean? So like, even though I didn't have that expectation, I still was a little disappointed. I don't know, I think it was fine. It was all good. I think it also was a little bit weird because there's the mystery element of you trying to figure out what this monster is and why it's destroying the city and who's behind it all. I feel like a lot of those connections that were made took the main characters forever to figure out. It was like halfway or more through the book where they realized something big, like they figured out a big connection, and I was like, it took you that long? Took you that long to figure that out? I think that was a little strange. Like I was saying in my last clip about me just like having to kind of speed through this to get it done on time, I would love to maybe pick it up. I had said that, but actually I don't know if I'll need to, because some of the stuff that I was just able to like bypass or let go over my head while I was listening was a lot of that extra fluff in here. So I don't feel that bad for missing out on it. I feel like I grasped enough out of this book to get the whole story, at least for me, in my opinion. I feel like I got enough out of this to understand and to be able to move on to the sequel. So yeah, it was a fun read, but nothing groundbreaking for me. But I am very, very impressed with Chloe Gong's writing for this. So yeah, 3 out of 5 stars, and that's that. So I did end up rating all of these books in the 3-star range. These Violent Delights and Serpent and Dove, I gave both 3 stars, but for different reasons, right? And then Kingdom of the Wicked, I gave 3.75 stars. So that one did end up being my favorite of the 3. I do really like that one. I think that one's definitely more up my speed. That's definitely the type of fantasy that I enjoy a lot. So I did love Kingdom of the Wicked, and I would recommend that one to you if you are a novice like me into fantasy, if you're not a huge fantasy reader, but sometimes you just want to read a fantasy. I would suggest Kingdom of the Wicked. That one was really, really good. But overall, these were all 3 really good books that I did have a fun time reading. If you do love fantasy like Janelle, then you would love all 3 of these, I'm sure. So let me know if you have read any of these books and what you thought of them. But yeah, I had a really fun time reading Janelle's favorite books. I literally felt like her this week because I was reading so much fantasy, and I never read that much fantasy. I am definitely drained from it though. Like I need to pick up something else now because that was a lot. But I did enjoy my time, and I would love to do another vlog of me reading more of Janelle's favorite books, or you know, whoever's favorite books. I really like this idea to branch out and kind of read something different than I would normally pick up. But yeah, I think that's gonna wrap up this video. So thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to check out Janelle and her vlog where she reads 3 of my favorite books. It will be linked down below, and make sure to give her all the love while you're there. I really hope you enjoyed this vlog, and I will see you guys next time.